What's going on, people, and welcome to another NBA Top 10 all-time of mine, and this one is for all-time NBA centers of mine. I hope you enjoyed the list. Let me know your list in the comments, and any NBA fans and heads that come across my channel, make sure you subscribe because there'll be more NBA content coming forward as well. Something I grew up with watching a lot and playing myself, so yeah, hope you enjoy it. Let me know yours in the comments. In at number 10, we got Patrick Ewing. I remember him a lot with his kind of battles and back and forths with Jordan in the 90s. 7 foot tall, beast in the paint. I thought he was just unfortunate not to ever win a championship. I feel like he was good enough to win one, but came close with the Knicks on a couple occasions, but didn't quite get over that final hurdle. But he's now the head coach of the Georgetown Hoyas. Yeah, I just remember him from the 90s a lot. He was like a rival to Jordan in terms of the attacking against the defense. Even though Jordan was more great on defense himself, like Ewing was trying to stop him, and I remember Jordan like doing some dunks over him, over a 7 foot guy. And kind of putting it about there, like, come on, let's go. And Ewing always give his best, and as I said, I think he was a little bit unlucky not to ever win a championship, because I think on a personal level he was good enough. Made the All-Star team several times, and yeah, just one that I was a fan of and remember fondly. So Patrick Ewing, number 10. In at number 9, one of the Pistons bad boys, the bad boys from the 90s, Bill Laimbeer. Helped the Pistons win 2 back-to-back titles, helped them win a back-to-back in 89 and 90. With the Pistons, they won the championship back-to-back, and he was a fundamental part of that squad. The image, the roughness, the tactics, the dirty play against teams, and got the better of Jordan once or twice, and then Jordan come back in the end and went on to do what he did. But Isaiah Thomas, Dennis Rodman as a young guy as well in that team at times. And yeah, Laimbeer was one of the founders in terms of that bad boy image and just being a twat, basically. But a real fundamental part of that team. A beast in the paint, strong. Probably not the best on the eye to watch in terms of, wasn't that skillful, but he was just a brute force. He was aggressive. He was ugly, but he would get the job done and get his points and rebounds because of that. So Bill Laimbeer has to make the list for me, number 9. Number 8. Now, some of these on this list, I had to go and do a bit of research about, because I've got some guys on here that played before I even got into basketball, because I didn't have a whole ton of centres from the time I was growing up that I would rate in the top 10, like, because I'm fussy and it takes a lot to get in my top 10s. So looking back on footage of older players, this one guy stood out to me. There's a couple in here, but in at number 8, a guy from the Washington Bullets at the time, now the Washington Wizards, Elvin Ernest Hayes. Made it look like art, like very delicate touch in and around the paint. Could shoot from distance a bit. A force. He was 6'9", like very long, but could drive to the basket, shoot from distance, mid-range, and he was good at the basket as well. Just very all-round good player, and one that from the highlights I was very impressed with. So I got to admit, I'm not an expert on him because he was way before my time and I literally just watched some highlights on him, but he stood out to me. So when you do that, props to you. Elvin Hayes, number 8. Number 7, Dwight Howard. I believe he's currently a free agent, which is crazy because he could definitely do a job for a lot of the teams still in the NBA, even if it's coming off the bench and more of a veteran player now. I think he should be in the team. Obviously, finally got his hands on a championship in 2020 with the Lakers. I'm very close to winning it with the Magic as well at one point. But a brute force, came into the league as a youngster and dominated straight away, basically. Wasn't the prettiest on the eye, but he had the athleticism and dunking around the rim. Obviously, he was in the All-Star dunk contest and things like that. He's a great character, I believe, in and around the game, like a positive character, and he gets a lot of stick from the press, I think. And I don't think it's justified, to be honest. I think he don't get the respect he should. So I've got to put some flowers and put some respect on his name and give him his flowers. So he is on my list. As I said, I think he's a free agent right now, and someone needs to snap him up because he still can offer team stuff. So yeah, won a championship, which a lot of people didn't think he would get to in his career, but he finally got his hands on one. I think he should have won one with a Magic at the time, but came up against Kobe, and the rest was history. Rest in peace to Kobe. But Howard, yeah, I think he's very underrated as a big in the history of basketball and doesn't get the credit he should. Dwight Howard, number 7. Number 6, another guy that I had to look in the archives for highlights, and I've heard his name come up over the years quite a lot, and I was impressed when I saw the highlights. Like, he looked like he had swag, he had that confidence, ability, like all-round play, and a very consistent performer in racking up points and just being a decent player consistently. And that was Moses Malone. Like I said, just I don't know a ton about him, but I've heard people talk about him over the years quite a lot, and from the highlights I saw, I was very impressed. And yeah, just looked like he had that show-off ability, was a serious character, could really knuckle down and get serious when he want him to, but he can also just be that flair player and do some crazy stuff. So Moses Malone, number 6. Number 5, people are going to be like, how is he not your number 1? But this is my number 1, not yours, mine. And that's the beauty of opinion. He is my number 5. He could have been lower, but I've got some other guys I had to put some respect on as well. And that's Shaquille O'Neal. Obviously, he'd probably be a lot of people's number 1, and I ain't mad at that. But for me, the other guys I got above him, I'll speak about why. Shaq, for me, I don't think he would have won as many titles as he did, even though he was so dominant as a big. I still don't think he would have won what he did without Kobe. And I think Kobe lifted him. I think Kobe made him be the best version of himself after a while. I know there was a lot reported of them clashing a lot as teammates, but they got the job done in the end and won numerous titles. But I think without Kobe on his case like he was and not backing down from him, I don't think that Shaq would have won what he did without Kobe. That is just opinion, obviously, but I truly believe that. I think Shaq still would have been one of the most dominant players as a centre, as a force, a character as well, in the league, even if he hadn't have won championships. But I think Kobe had a lot to do with his run and the Lakers and what they did, and Phil Jackson, obviously. But Shaq, look, I respect him. He is one of the greats. I just wouldn't have him as low, other than 5. So Shaquille O'Neal, number 5. Number 4, Olajuwon. Hakeem Olajuwon. Rockets won back-to-back titles with the Rockets in the 90s. And in terms of a big, I think out of this list, he was the most athletic, the quickest, probably had the most natural ability for me. Natural athlete, and coming from such a poor upbringing was a brilliant story in itself. I believe he does great things off the court as well, and he's done a lot of stuff over the years for charities and being an ambassador for the league, and just a fantastic centre for me. When I've seen clips of him, it was a little bit before my time, but I have watched clips of him quite a few times, and he looks an exciting player to watch as a big. As I said, the speed, the acceleration, the agility for someone his size, just did moves at the time that I don't think a lot of bigs were doing, and you see nowadays, but he was the first one for me to introduce the kind of athleticism he had and ability and the moves he did. So Hakeem Olajuwon, respect to you, sir, number 4. Number 3, Wilt Chamberlain. Not a lot of guys always talk about him. Some do, and ones that really know their basketball do. But a lot of the new guys won't know about him because he was back in the day, 1958 to 1973 playing career. 2-time NBA champion, though, in 1972 and 1967. Finals MVP, won numerous things, 13-time All-Star, that's crazy as well. Also had a record which still stands to this day that no player's ever broken. Scored 100 points in one game. And that's crazy. Still nobody has come close to that. I think Kobe was the closest to getting it, and he got it something like 80 plus in a game. But no one's got into the 90s or the 100s, so still not been broken. 100 points in a game is crazy. And he lost the battle to Bill Russell a lot in his years. Russell got into his head, and that is part of it. And outside of that, Chamberlain was a beast, and I think if it weren't for Russell in that same time period, he would have probably had 4 or 5 championships. But Russell did his thing, and fair play to him. But Chamberlain, his numbers and stats alone in the history books are still standing, and I think you have to put respect on his name. He was a member of the Harlem Globetrotters, for anyone that didn't know that. and toured with them in 1959, I think it was, before his career properly took off. 7'1" as well, like a colossal of a giant of a man, but had the skill, just could get to the basket easily. 100 points in a game is just, I don't think it gets spoken about enough. Still hasn't been broken, and no one's really got close to it, so got to put some respect on it. That's why I've got him at number 3 for the stats and numbers, and could have probably won more than he did in terms of championships hadn't it been for Russell. So Wilt Chamberlain, number 3. Number 2, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. 19-time All-Star, 19, that's crazy. 6-time most valuable player, 15-time All-NBA team member, 11-time all-time NBA defensive team member, and he won 6 championships. Like, his stats and numbers are crazy. He played for 20 seasons in the league, so he had the longevity. Just a crazy number of consistency, putting up numbers. 2-time finalist MVP. And a lot of ex-players and players to this day regard him as the greatest ever, even over Michael Jordan. So I had to have on the list in terms of all positions in the game. But yeah, like a great player, very tall, 7'2". Like Chamberlain's 7'1", Kareem was 7'2". It wasn't quick, but that height alone, people couldn't deal with it. It made the sky hook move famous. Which we later saw Magic Johnson trying to pull off, but no one did it like Abdul did. At the time he retired, he was the all-time leader in points, and he's still up there in terms of numbers in history of the league for points. He's still in, I think, the top 5. Played some of the most minutes ever in the game as well. So his list goes on. 6-time champion, as I said. 2-time finalist MVP. 6-time most valuable player. 10-time All-NBA first team. Like, the list goes on and on. I have to put respect on it. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, I'm giving you your flowers, number 2. And then at number 1, guys, I couldn't have anyone else because of the amount of titles and championships he won. And the mind games, like I was on about with Chamberlain a minute ago, he got into his head and got the better of him. But most people thought Chamberlain was the better all-round player in terms of skill, flair. But this guy had the stats in terms of playing career, the CV at the end of it, and the boasting and bragging rights. But he was very humble with it. And I have to put respect on his name. Rest in peace, the one and only, Bill Russell. 11-time NBA champion. 11 times. 12-time NBA All-Star. 5-time most valuable player. He was the glue and the centerpiece of which around the Boston Celtics built their dynasty and that period of domination. In his 13 years of playing, they built that team around him. Even as he was getting on in his years, he still won titles with them when people thought he was like washed. When people thought he was washed up and his time was up and he needs to leave. He's still putting numbers up, still breaking records and still winning championships. He was also captain of the men's USA Olympics team that won the gold medal in 1956 as well. 6'10", did it in lesser height than the likes of Chamberlain, Kareem as well. But the dominance he had, 11-time champion, no one's got close to it. And he was there for all of it. Players come and go, and he's the centerpiece for all of them winning seasons for them. The dynasty, the domination, it's because of him, a lot of it. And you can't hide from that. Sadly passed away in July this year, rest in peace. At aged 88, though, led a wonderful life, a long life, and the respect is there. Like, it was way before my time, but I have him as my number 1 because I got respect for it. 11-time champion. And his stats are still up there in terms of rebounds and championships, obviously. No one's got close to 11 championships, no one. And you have to put respect on it. He's my number 1. I'm giving you your flowers. Rest in peace to Mr. Bill Russell. I recognise greatness. I hope you enjoyed the list, guys. Let me know yours in the comments. I just welcome all NBA fans. Come over, come and join. I'll catch you on the next one.